Today we're gonna make old-fashioned chocolate cake donuts. They are super rich and moist and perfectly cakey. They have a nice, beautiful glaze on the outside. You're not gonna wanna miss these. So the first step is we're gonna cream our butter and sugar. It's not totally like creaming because there's not a lot of butter, so we're more gonna cut in our butter into our sugar until there's no more visible bits. So first into a bowl of our stand mixer, we're gonna do butter and then granulated sugar. And I'm gonna start it on a little bit slower just so that it doesn't fly up, and then increase it from there. So while our butter and sugar combines, we're gonna whisk together our dry ingredients. I have AP flour, pastry flour is also great, and then I have Dutch processed cocoa powder, kosher salt, baking powder, that's our leavening, and a little bit of espresso powder. You can omit this if you don't have it, that's totally fine. So then we've got all of our dries together and we'll just whisk those. So when it's done, it's gonna look like the consistency kind of like wet sand, and that's great. And then we're gonna slowly add our egg yolks. It's about 5 egg yolks, so it's not an insignificant amount of egg yolks. And then we're gonna keep beating this until it's like a light, pale, fluffy yellow. So it's super light and pale and beautiful. And we're just gonna alternate our dry and our sour cream. Just kind of turn it down low and just tap it in. You just wanna be careful about how fast you put the dry in there because the cocoa powder, the chocolate will like get everywhere. So you don't want to take forever and overmix your batter, but you do want to, you want to give it time. Okay, that's it. So we're gonna chill our dough. The easiest and fastest way to do that is to kind of get it as flat as possible, almost as flat as you're going to get it later. And that way it'll chill faster and, you'll have less work, which sounds good to me. We are going to generously flour our plastic wrap. Why are you flouring plastic wrap, you ask? Excellent question. Because I'm all about making life easier later, and this is what is gonna do that. Now, scoop up your dough situation, plop her down, careful, because otherwise the flour will go everywhere. This is a messy situation, okay? This is fun, okay? This is the best part about pastry, is getting your hands just a little bit dirty. Our last step is we're going to flour the top of our dough. Do not stress about the amount of flour that you're placing outside your dough. If you've ever made cake donuts before, you know that they are sticky AF. So now we're gonna wrap our dough up. Okay, I'm gonna press it down a little bit, get it a little flatter so that she'll chill a little faster, right? So I'm gonna pop this in the fridge for about 30 minutes. We'll give you enough time to, and then we're gonna roll her out and cut them. Next step is to roll out the dough and cut them. So I'm gonna spray my parchment. Just keeps the dough from sticking to it. I'm gonna flour my bench. Yes, we floured our dough, but like honestly, who wants chocolate stuck to their counter? So I've got my packet, I'm gonna flop that down carefully so as not to get it everywhere. And then we're gonna roll this about like 1/2 inch thick. And then since we already flattened it, there's like literally no effort to this right now. Okay, so it's nice even thickness, and then we're just going to choose what size cutter we want. Obviously this one, the smallest one, is good for the whole, and then we're just going to decide how big we want our donuts. Usually I do like 3-inch ring, so we're going to go ahead and cut them. We're trying to get, it's going to make about 12, so you're going to kind of try and look at your dough and make sure that you're getting it, getting them as close together as possible. Then you're gonna cut your holes. You do wanna work relatively quickly. You wanna keep the dough cold. You also wanna keep it from sticking, so the longer it sits next to all the scraps, the more likely it is to re-adhere itself. And then you're gonna place it on your sheet. So carefully picking them up and placing them down. Now you've got all your donuts cut. And we're just gonna chill this for about 2 hours. I'm just gonna wrap them up really nicely. Into into the fridge. So my donuts have about like 30 minutes left to cool in the fridge. So I'm gonna start to heat my oil slowly and make my glaze. So we're just going to, I'm gonna wait until it gets to about 340 and then I'm gonna start to kind of set up to fry. We're gonna fry at 350 and I want a donut so badly, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so while we wait for that, we are going to whisk together our ingredients for our glaze. So in my bowl, I've got confectioner sugar, 10x. I am going to put a little bit of salt because that's a lot of sugar. That's a lot of sugar. And then I'm going to add my milk. I don't want to add it all at one time because I don't want to accidentally add too much. Obviously, this is too thick. So I'm going to keep adding my milk. Add the rest of my milk. Okay, so you see how that's it's nice and smooth. And it has a really nice consistency in there. I can pull it up and it'll run off of my whisk in one stream. I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla. You don't have to. I don't think a traditional donut glaze doesn't have any vanilla in it, but just a little, just a hint, and then whisk that in. Okay, awesome. I'm just going to cover this in plastic wrap so it doesn't get a skin while we wait. Okay, so it has been a little over 2 hours and we are ready to fry our donuts, okay? So I've had, obviously my oil has been preheating. It's at 340 right now and rapidly climbing. I have it on kind of medium high to try and get it up there. So the key is that you're in control of your oil at all times. So I put my thermometer, I clipped it on. I can see the temperature all the time. I'm always watching the temperature of my oil, not only for my donuts, but also because I don't want to, if you overheat your oil, if it gets really hot, like closer to 400, it will start to scorch. You do want to make sure that you use a neutral flavored oil, like this is canola oil, and I've created like a little flow, a little assembly line here, if you will. I've got my cold dough, I've got my fryer spider, I've got my hot oil, which has now, it's now at 355, which is perfect, and I'm very excited. And then I've got my sheet pan that I've lined with plastic, which is just gonna help catch any stray bits of glaze. You could reuse them if you wanted to, if it didn't get too dirty, but also just makes cleanup a lot easier. And then I've also got a wire rack in here. This is to allow the oil to drip off as well as the glaze. So no soggy donuts, and the way we avoid that is we allow them to kind of cool just slightly, allow the oil to drip before we glaze them. All right, so we're gonna take our dough. I'm gonna delicately place, I'm gonna drop it in the oil with loving care, right? You can also put it on your spider and lower it down, but I'm professional and I've been trained to have no fear. So they're gonna sink first and then they're gonna pop to the surface and start to bubble. So the chocolate has a tendency to get that kind of bitter taste if you aren't careful with your fryer temperature. I say it's more egregious than some other flavors. The oil temperature is rising to like 350 right now, so I'm gonna back off the heat. I'm gonna take it back down to kind of medium low. Okay, so you can see that they've started to puff and started to split like that. And so I'm gonna take this opportunity to turn them over. And in order to do that, I just kind of touch them and I allow them to move. Okay, so I'm gonna flip them over again. I usually like to finish it on the first side, the side that I started on. The way that we're gonna test for doneness is with a cake tester. So this is an excellent way. I test both my yeasted and my cake donuts with a cake tester. And then I'm gonna poke right through there. And I'm gonna test. I test in a couple spots usually, especially with the first batch, just to make sure that it is in fact done. So there's nothing, there's no crumbs or anything on these, so I'm gonna take those out. Just give them a little, I give them a second just to drip over top of the fryer before I put them on my tray. We are going to dip our donuts. I like to do it while they're still hot. I like to just go ahead and dip the hot donut. Some people use chopsticks, but like honestly, isn't life hard enough? So just kind of drizzle it over the glaze, and then place it down. They are perfect. I'm gonna take them out. Oh yeah, she's a beaut. Remember to drip dry. So again, we dip it in, swirl around. Oh, you see these first ones are starting to get that like nice kind of, you know, smooth coating. And now we fry. Without further ado, oh, they're still really warm. Oh yeah, look at the, oh my gosh, it's like so cakey and moist. Look a little bit crisp on the outside from the glaze and the chocolate, and super soft and moist on the inside. These are perfection. Perfection.